catch up. We had, for our last example, area equals pi r squared. And what were we asked to solve for? R. Solve for R. And did we already talk about what this formula is for?
No.
Oh, it's for a radius, isn't it?
The area.
Close. It's
The area
for
of a
the
circle.
area of a circle.
Oh, okay.
So basically it says that to get the area of a circle, you would just need to take the radius, square it, and then times by what? Times by pi. Well, for us to solve for r, we're going to have to undo pi. We're also going to have to undo squaring. So this may be some new information here. First things first, if you're ever unsure where to start, think about order of operations in reverse. Normally squaring would come first, then multiplication. But since we're undoing these things, it's usually a good idea to undo the pi first. How do we undo multiplying by pi? You got it. And pi is just a number like anything else. We can't simplify this. So we just leave it a over pi equals what?
R
R squared. You got it. R squared. So this may be new to you, but to undo squaring something, you just need to do a square root. You guys heard of that before?
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, if you like, I'll just give you kind of a quick example. You take the number 3 and you square it. What do you get?
No.
9. Well, then in a calculator, or if you know it, if you take the square root of 9, it takes you back to 3. So they undo each other. They're inverse operations. So the inverse operation for squaring is a square root. Now it turns out the inverse operation for if it was a cube root, or if it was cubed, would be a cube root. But we might get to that stuff later on this year, but I'm not sure that we will. Now, what do we got to do though to keep things balanced?
Other side.
The other side. And here's the thing: we're square rooting the entire thing. So our final answer, we finally have square rooting, getting rid of the squared, so we're left with r equals, and there's nothing really that we can do here, so we'll just leave it as square root of a over pi. We're done.
That's easy.
What do you guys think? Yeah.
How do you even solve that?
What's that?
How do you solve that?
What do you mean solve
You
it?
need to know
How would you solve it?
like if you had to like solve that.
Oh, if you had to like use this formula?
Well,
Well,
you do A.
what would you have to be given?
You know, how do you measure the area of a circle?
Well, that's kind of complicated thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, you could break it up into square units and approximate it.
So you have to you get the area by finding what the radius is. And how you
Right, right.
And again, for the
Yeah.
radius,
Wouldn't you divide the area by
Mhm.
pi and the square root?
Right, so if you were given the area, you would just divide it by pi, which is a button on most calculators. Not on your, is it on your little one?
I don't know.
Kinda-
Couldn't you do 3.14?
You could, that would be approximate, and actually, they'd all be approximate. Yeah, you could divide by 3.14, and then what would be your last step? Square root that answer, yeah.
There's only square root versus one.
Just square root, but not a pi button. No. All right, let's try another one with pi. Let's try another one with pi. Let's go S equals pi r squared plus pi r L. Now, this is a real formula. What it is it's the lateral area or the surface area, or I'm sorry, I should say it's the total surface area of a cone. You guys know what a cone is?
Yes.
What's the last
Ice
one?
cream.
That E.
It's an L.
Oh.
It's like a cursive. What's that?
Yeah.
Why would somebody do something like this? Like
Measure
in
colors.
big math. Like why would they do that?
Well, it's geometry, so it's actually a stud. It's a mathematical subject.
I know, but why?
Well,
They just
because
found something.
Why do people do cross?
cones are, yeah, I mean, it's just, I
Because
think we do, yeah. All right, so, ladies and gentlemen, here's what we're gonna solve for. Because right now, there's a few things we could solve for, right?
Yes.
We might be asked to solve for R, which would be kind of tricky, wouldn't it?
Yes.
We might be able to do the reverse distribution, but even that would kind of give us some issues. It turns out we're instructed to solve for L.
That's an L.
Yeah, it's an L.
Yes.
Yeah.
Somebody just tell me basically made something for people.
So, as I've suggested before, I like to put a dot above what I'm trying to solve for, and I want to move everything away from this L. So what would you suggest we do?
Divide by pi square root. Would you be able to?
Can you combine the pies together?
R? Oh, we're doing R.
Well,
Oh,
it's not a bad idea.
Sorry.
Combine the pies, but they're not like terms. Well, again, we're trying to get L by itself. What's happening to L right here? Multiplied by pi and R. And then it's also being added with what? Pi r squared. Let's undo the pi r squared. Let's subtract it. Move it to the other side. So when you've got that addition or subtraction separating it, you can just subtract the whole thing over. Now, for this, we're just going to write it on one line. S equals, or S minus pi r squared equals pi r L. What could we do next?
Divide.
Well, we could subtract pi r if pi r was adding with L.
Oh, yeah, because you have to.
So what do we need to do?
Subtract.
Divide by pi.
Divide by pi.
Oh.
And you've got some options. You can either do a big division bar and write pi r, or yeah, pi r like so. Or you could distribute the division.
Oh, no.
And so I just want to show you that you could also do this and distribute it like that. Now, either way is fine. Either way is fine. So one of your answers could be L equals S minus pi r squared over pi r. That's a good answer. You've gotten L by itself. We're good. But do you guys see how like these pi's and r's and stuff, how it's kind of tempting to simplify it? The only way to simplify this is to distribute the division, and then I'll tell you what the other answer could be. The other answer, what's that?
So you'd accept that answer?
Yeah, this answer's fine. You can just divide by a big pi r. Or you could distribute the division, and you can write S over pi r minus, and then what happens to the pi's here?
They cancel out.
Divide out. You know what happens with the r's? R squared means how many r's?
R times R. Two. So now it would become R cubed.
What happens to one set?
They disappear.
Divide out.
That makes sense.
So another answer would be L equals S over pi r minus what?
R.
R. So there's two possibilities. Either one is fine. Either one is fine.
But if it was R cubed, would it be R of it squared?
Yeah, left over after you divide. You got it, yeah. Okay, I would like for you guys to try this one out on your own.
Wait, how many examples?
We've just got 2 more. Distance equals rate times time. We've used this a lot this year. And I want you to solve for the rate. Now, what this is, solve for the rate. Give this a shot while I take roll, and then check with your neighbor.
It's just giving me a headache.
Going for a simple solution.
Oh, I'm so freaking smart. Here, that's what I did.
We're here at class. It's easier to learn something else. It's amazing. When I sit around with a bunch of people that I know can be able like one thing. Yeah, I like running and running things. I like doing things.
But he's, if he does basketball with us, he's gonna like.
If you don't basketball,
Or he could go downhill.
Yeah, we'll see. Yes, that's the ring.
I keep saying that.
We have 2 seasons this year to figure out what we would do.
I think it's scratching my leg.
This season, and then basketball season here, and then she has
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, I checked about half the class, and they were good. I didn't check this side yet. Put a dot above the R, and what do we do to undo the T? Divide. Then division, property of equality. And you're done, aren't you? You're done. All right, let's try another one.
is it easy like this?
And on this next one, it says I equals PRT. And we're instructed to solve for T. And we're going to spend a little bit more time with this formula because I think I noticed in something that we did that you guys were a little unfamiliar with it. But first things first, to solve for T, you could do this in 2 steps, but I think most of you are going to be ready to do this in 1 step. If we're going to get T by itself, what do we need to do?
Divide by PR.
You got it. Divide by PR. Divide by PR.
Public relations.
Yeah.
No, just per.
All right. Now, I want to now give you a scenario where you would actually use this formula. And so, and this is actually kind of useful. So I do want you to write this little sentence down. If $3,500 is invested at 4% interest rate, how long until you earn $350 interest? Right, you're right, you don't. So if $3,500 is invested at 4% interest rate, how long until you earn $350 interest. So this formula is, this is the interest that you earn is equal to the principal, which is the starting amount. Your starting amount times your rate times time, and the time is in years. But we rewrote it, didn't we? We rewrote it so that you are solving for time, which is what this is asking for, right? How long? Solving for time, but we still need to have the interest that you earned, the principal or starting amount, and a rate. So what is the interest that we want to earn? $350. What's the principal? What's the starting amount?
3,500.
3,500 times, and what's the interest rate? 4%. And do you know how we need to rewrite it? 0.04.
Oh.
You gotta move, to change a percent to decimal, you divide by 100, or you move it 2 decimal places.
Oh, because then 40%.
Yeah, 40% would be 0.4. So, what I need for you to be careful with is evaluating this. What I would suggest you do is treat this fraction bar as a grouping symbol. Go ahead and simplify 3,500 times 0.04 first and get that number. So help me out. What is 3,500 times 0.04? 140? And then go ahead and divide it. What happens is a lot of people will try to enter this all in their calculator at once and say 350 divided by 3,500 times 0.04, and that's not accurate. What would be accurate is to divide by 350 or 3,500 and then divide your answer by 0.04. That would get you the right solution. But I would recommend that you go ahead and simplify your numerator first and then divide. And how long does it take? What's that?
2.5
Is it in years or?
It's actually in years, yeah.
Oh, the 2.5 years.
2.5 years. Or
Or
2.5 years.
2 years and 6 months.
Yeah, you could do that as well. What's the benefit of saying 2.5 rather than 2.5?
It's the fraction.
It's a fraction, but why is that beneficial? 2.5 could be what?
A slope.
Well, no, it could be rounded is what I'm getting at.
Oh,
If we use a half, we know that that's an exact answer. Does that make sense to everybody? All right, so listen, guys. I want you to practice this. Practice. Oh, by the way, these are also called literal equations, where instead of numbers, you have what? Letters. So they're also called literal equations. But I want you to practice page 40. Numbers 3 through 35, every other odd. But listen, if you need more practice, do more, right?
Yeah.
Do more. It's important. It's very important that you check answers periodically. Is everybody with me on that? That should be automatic. As you work a few problems, check your answers. Work a few problems, check your answers. Guys, use this time wisely because we're going to be quizzing tomorrow.
We have a quiz Friday.